Okay, so the reason the grid, the reason for setting up the grid in the first place, there's a couple of really key issues that run across when you're doing this work. And when I say this work, what I mean is self-improvement work, and you're trying to work on your own self, whether it be for spiritual healing or just transformation or self-growth or manifesting what you want in your life. And there are some realities, that are out there. And I think it's important to, there's a tendency, I think, to want to just think positively and put our heads in the sand, and it doesn't really get us necessarily where we want to go as quickly or as easily. So the main issue that's kind of something that I wanted to address when dealing with the grid and setting the intentions was, number one, there are external energies in play. There are external forces in play. There are external intentions by others in play. I think anybody that's taken a kinesiology class, a spiritual kinesiology class, can easily muscle test creating weakness in someone else with their thoughts. So if I was to focus on an individual and say something negative towards them, it would weaken their field. Okay, so even the thoughts that we're around every day when we're dealing with others can also affect us and the progress that we're making. So part of the reason for setting up the grid is to create kind of a firewall. I've been referring to it as a firewall, where you are working in a space, working on yourself, whether it be through, could be anything, subconscious block clearing, affirmation work, anything you can think of that's self-improvement or growth, meditation, anything, yoga, doesn't matter, whatever it is that is something that's helping you to kind of raise your vibration or make some headway in self-improvement. So setting up this grid, it kind of creates this atmosphere where you are insulated and better able to succeed in that process. Okay. We have external frequencies that are running. I personally am very susceptible to cell phone towers and solar flare energy and people's emotions. So a lot of that stuff, it's sometimes when you're emotionally available to these things, they can be a bit of a roller coaster ride. So part of the grid is set up to make it so that we can operate in a more balanced space. And I personally, because I did the Pineal Attunement, I personally just enjoy just kind of leaving that on, and allows me to just really maintain that balance and learn to maintain that balance. And periodically I just turn it off and maintain it on my own. So it's really, it's been very beneficial in that way. So that's one of the first benefits of the grid. And I really wanted to make sure people understand that while that is going to help with the external stuff, it will not necessarily prevent our own inner dialogue and our own inner thoughts. So, for example, I ran into kind of a serious issue last week, and I dipped down in frequency, and I ended up getting a cold. And I hadn't gotten a cold in, I can't remember when, and so it was a good reminder that even though I'm in the grid, a huge leg up, I'm able to make a lot more progress this way, and but I am still at the mercy of my thinking, and I am still able to affect me, so in a positive and negative way. So we do need to keep in mind that we become accountable within the grid. We then are kind of made to where we're accountable for us now, and that becomes our main focus. And I'll get more into the shared element of that and why a little bit later, but I do want to really explain how that component is set up to kind of insulate us and to make this a little more fair, because there's a lot of stuff running that's feeding off our energy, and you have people that do that too, and it just kind of makes all that go away. I think it's interesting, one of my classes that I was in, people that were trying to read me to do remote testing for muscle testing, for one of my classes, they could not get it to work, and so that was kind of interesting. I had to turn the grid off mentally to get that to come in. And in a few cases, remote healing sessions, I'd like to listen to some of those online, and I have to set the intention before I start the program that I'm willing to accept what they're sending my way if it's in alignment with my higher good. So, higher self. Anyway, so I think that we have a lot more control when we're running this grid, and I appreciate being able to work and operate in this mode. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with others, because I think this is one struggle that everybody seems to be having, is just to get that, kind of get a fair playing field. And that's kind of what this is helping to achieve. So that's one of the first things.